The question is, given money, resources, access to multiple playoff berths, and strength of schedule, do you think every Big Ten and SEC head coaching job is better than any job outside the conference? Now, he added some caveats there, but I'm just going to go with what he asked there in the body of the question. My answer is no. So to be clear, what he's saying is all these, not all these conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten are getting so much more TV money that allows them to pay their coaching staff so much more if they want to, that could the worst job in the Big Ten still be better for a coach than the best job in the ACC? And my answer is no. I don't think that's the case. Now, my question does become, in this new world of ours, in this A2, B2, everyone else world of ours, how radically is the pay scale warped? Because right now, the highest paid coaches in these conferences are paid dollar figures that Clemson or FSU or Miami could easily afford to pay. Do we ever get to a spot where the head coach of Purdue is making $17 million a year? I don't think we will, because I think we are rapidly approaching a period in the sport where the revenue is going to have to be shared with a lot more people than just the coaching staff. So I don't think we'll ever get there. Right now, the top 10 highest paid coaches, as of last year, it was Saban and Swinney and Smart. Josh Heupel was 10th. But the point is, the gap between Saban and Heupel was $2 million. And Saban made 11.5 last year. Dabo made 11 or thereabouts last year. There are a lot of programs outside the Big Two that can afford to pay that kind of money. They can afford that. So as of this moment, the pay scale hasn't been warped to that point. Will it be warped in the future? If so, we'll have to revisit this. But right now, FSU has got no problem keeping up with that kind of pay scale. If they got the right guy, and they do, in Mike Norvell, they'd be fine if they needed to bump him up a couple more $1 million a year, which they just did, by the way. But let's play the long game for a second. I understand what you're saying when you suggest to me that, oh, Josh, that Big Ten and SEC sticker, it means everything. I'd rather be the head coach of Indiana than the head coach of fill in the blank, because you've got the security of knowing you've got that Big Ten blanket over you. Well, I disagree with that. You do have security in knowing you're in the biggest fishbowl, or one of the biggest fishbowls in the sport, but I personally would much rather have a workable path in the ACC or in the Big 12. I'd even much rather have a workable path in the AAC or even the Mountain West than have a Tier 3 job in the SEC or the Big 10, because what people aren't realizing is, at the end of the day, it's still about wins and losses. And when you're adding to these conferences teams like Texas and Oklahoma, or you're adding Oregon and Washington and USC to these conferences, if you're a Tier 3 job or a head coach at that Tier 3 job, all that means is, yeah, there's more media rights money coming into the conference, and yeah, you may be making a little bit more than you otherwise would have. You're also going to shoulder more losses per year. And if you think these people are going to look and say, oh, 4-7's okay now because the conference is a little bit deeper, they're not. So you're putting yourself in a position where if you are the head coach at a Tier 3 spot in the SEC or the Big Ten, it's impossible to elevate. Whereas if you're tearing it up at Tulane or you're tearing it up at Utah, you could theoretically just afford to sit there and continue to tear it up, make pretty good money, and wait until one of the Tier 2s or Tier 1s opens up. That is a much more beneficial strategy long-term to me than just saying, I got to get to the SEC no matter what. I got to get to the Big Ten no matter what. I don't know. There's worthwhile goals, but no matter what, understand what you're saying. Understand what those words mean.